All right, ladies and gents, I think this is the right way to set goals, and I think this is going to be very, very beneficial for you. Um, because all the other ways I've seen or heard about going about your goals is just completely and utterly just a waste of time, in my opinion. Like, it just did not work for me. So, most people have this idea that when they set a goal, it is heavily based upon the outcome. So, for example, let's say that my goal is to get to 1,000 subs, right? That is a goal that is based upon the outcome. So that is what, 1,000 subs. Now think about this, right? Think about this in a realistic sense. That metric of 1,000 subscribers is something I don't control. Why? Unless I make 1,000, fake accounts and subscribe to myself, which is just pathetic, right? Let's just be honest. 1,000 subscribers are basically 1,000 people that I have no control over whatsoever. And because of that, the time metric for which I might achieve such a goal is completely skewed. Like, I have zero control over that, right? So then what is the metric that'll allow me to possibly reach that goal or get as close to it as possible? Is an actionable goal that I can perform daily in order to help me get there, or an actionable step, I should say, to that goal. So if you're thinking about, let's say, becoming like a big, well, if you want to become a content creator, right? Instead of thinking like subs or views or anything like that, because that is something that isn't necessarily in your control, you need to think about the things that are in your control. So what is it? What is in your control? It is the input, right? So what you're inputting into the system is in your control. Okay, so I can't control getting 1,000 subs, right? If I can't control that, because like I said, those are first of all people, so those are variables that are out of your control, and so is the time in which you achieve that, which is also out of your goal. So then what should the goal be, right? It should be what allows you to possibly get 1,000 subs. And I say possibly because you don't know the time, and you don't know if you could, right? Those are just like things up in the air, voodoo, all that, so you need to think about, okay, how about I upload a video every day? Now think about the control you have within that situation. You have the control over the input that you put into the system. Because most people, when they make goals, they only think about what the system can give them, the output, the six-pack abs. What can I get out of the system, right? The 300K out of my business, or something like that. Like something wild. It's always outcome based, and that's like a variable you don't necessarily have a whole lot of influence over. And yes, I understand you could take the right steps to get there, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. You take the right steps to get there, so the goal should be the actionable steps to get you there, not the actual outcome. Does that make sense? So instead of thinking how do I get shredded and get a six-pack abs, okay, what does a person that have six-pack abs do? They work out every day. What does a content creator that has X amount of subs or X amount of views do? They post X amount of times a day. And you have to see the difference between those two things, right? In one scenario, the person setting the goal has most of the influence and or the control in their input. While in the other scenarios, you don't have, you're setting goals with outputs that you can't necessarily control because they're inputted into like the system, right? And the system can do whatever with that. Think about the system like the YouTube algorithm. If I post a video, right, I can't say, oh, my goal is to get like 1,000 views on this. That sounds stupid, right? Because I can't control that. Same thing with subs. Same thing with trying to get shredded. Same thing with trying to reach a certain milestone in your business. Now, of course, like, those are things that you want to achieve. I'm not saying they're not things I want to achieve. Of course I want like more subs. That'd be great. More people listening in, more people understanding the message, things of that nature. But you have to understand that system is still flawed because there are variables that you do not control. You have to think about the variables that you can control. And what makes it so great is once you have this thought out plan of what your goal is. So let's say your goal is to get six-pack abs, right? Okay, so that is the outcome. Of course, now you do want to think about the outcome just a little bit, right? But once you know what you want, okay, how are you going to work up to get there? So I want you to completely forget about that outcome based goal. Now think about the actionable steps that you yourself can input into the system daily to then get that output, or get as close to that output as possible. And while you're on that journey of taking actionable steps every single day, you'll find micro things that do work, like, oh, this exercise, um, I don't like it as much, or, studies show it's not as good, or this diet plan is better. Things of that nature that you micro changed throughout the course of trying to achieve that goal. And you'll realize you'll make it a whole lot easier on yourself mentally too, because now you're not like, okay, well, oh, to get any progress in the gym or look a certain way in the gym, I need to wait like 2 years, and then I finally get the six pack abs I wanted, or like, oh, I need to wait this long before I finally succeed in my business. It's like, dude, that anybody who thinks about it like that, even the people who are already doing it, they're going to be hella demoralized, because you're thinking like way into the future, and you again have no control over anything within the future. That's like an output variable you don't control whatsoever. So you need to think about the input. What can you do right now at this present moment during the day, daily, that you can control and you can input into the system to get possibly the kind of output that you want, right? And I'm sure that if you actively pursue this in a manner that'll help you learn, and you actively try to, learn from your mistakes, and you try to put more effort into this thing, you'll learn these nuanced things that'll then slowly compound and help you get way closer to that output that you've wanted, by having the kind of goals that are solely input based. So think about that. So if you want six pack abs, okay, like the best way to ask yourself the question around how this framework works is, you ask yourself, okay, what would a person in this situation do? So let's say, for example, you want to be someone like you kind of want to be like Mr. Beast, right? You want the outcomes he has on YouTube or something like that. Okay, what does a person like him do? Not what does he have, because that is an outcome that he has achieved that, he himself had no control over. What did he do to get there? What was the input that he put into the system? It was, oh, okay, maybe he uploaded this many videos and this many shorts. Okay, what about this person that was on a weight loss journey? Okay, what did they input into the system? Instead of saying, oh, okay, they got to the 190 pounds, which you do need to measure that to some degree, some metric, right? But what were the actions? I need you to focus on the actions that you were taking daily. What were the actions that they took daily in order to get them there? What was the actions that someone who is an IFBB pro took to get there? What are the daily actions? Because if you start to think about it in that framework, right, that means that if you do your daily action that allows you to get there, you can literally do it and just forget about it. Oh, I did that thing for the day. Okay, eventually, if I put in enough time and consistency, I'll get there because I'm doing the action. It's just that simple. It just becomes like this, the stress lifted off your shoulders. Like if you thoroughly plan this out, and you've got an outcome that you want to achieve that is possible, then okay, all you got to do is now plan it out. Like, okay, what would I need to do in a year? Let's say it takes you like 2 years to get shredded, right? Okay, what do I need to do in a year? And then you minimize that to a month, and then you minimize that to a week, and then you minimize that thing to a day. And then you're like, okay, what's the daily action I need to take to get there? And so now all you got to do, take the daily action, and then you're slowly on your way there. And like I said, assuming you put in the time to learn something about whatever it is that you want to achieve, like bodybuilding or dieting or things such as that nature, or business, then you'll compound your growth like exponentially. Because to some degree, you don't want to be complacent just doing the same thing and thinking you'll get there. Like, you'll get pretty close to the output, but it's also good to just learn and have that knowledge, so you could also like share it with someone, and make sure that you're as competent as you can be when it comes to trying to pursue that goal, right? So think about to summarize it, just think about the inputs that you're putting into the system. Stop focusing so hard on the outputs. You know, when they talk about, oh, focus on the process, the journey, all these motivational videos that people think are bullshit and all that, right? They're right. Focus on the process. Stop focusing so much on the outcome. The outcome is sure important because you need to know where you need to get, but you need to know what you need to do in order to achieve that. And that is what's most important. And in that realization, you'll finally understand what it actually takes to get there, because now you know what you got to do daily. And you're not misjudging the situation. That's all I got for y'all. Peace. Take it easy.